Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the backstory. If you're new here, kindly hit the subscribe button and the notification bell down below so that you can be notified whenever we post a new video. Now, ladies and gentlemen, just some days back, the former Cabinet Secretary for Internal Security, Fred Matiang'i, came back into the country. He was in the US and he came back to launch his campaigns officially. Matiang'i apparently wants to go for the presidency in 2027 against the incumbent President William Ruto. And his coming back, it seems, has raised a lot of heat in President William Ruto's camp. And there are people who have been unleashed to discredit Matiang'i's candidature. And key among the people who have been unleashed to discredit his candidature is Senator Cheriot and some Rift Valley political leaders.
Watu lazima tuheshimiane. Hata nimeona wameenda kudanganya Matiang'i. Matiang'i anataka kutumia ile pesa akina Uhuru waliiba atukuomba kiti ya rais. Hii shida tuko naye Kenya hii. Na nataka niseme nikiwa nyumbani hapa Nandi. Ile uchumi mbaya iko Kenya hii ni kwa sababu Uhuru Kenyatta aliharibu uchumi wa Kenya hii. Hiyo pesa wameiba, wanataka kuja kupatia Matiang'i aombe urais. Kabla Matiang'i hajakuja kuomba rais, lazima atuambie akiwa waziri wa Interior Ministry, mbona miili ya vijana wetu walikuwa wanapatikana Rivayala? Mbona miili ya vijana walikuwa wanapatikana Savo? Mbona vijana walikuwa wanauawa hapo DCI container? Lazima aambie sisi. Hiyo pesa anataka kutumia kuomba urais ni ile pesa ya uwizi ambaye Uhuru na yeye akiwa Interior Minister waliiba kwa hii serikali. Ndio maana Rais William Ruto anang'ang'ana mpaka tumeleta broad base kujaribu kuleta Kenya pamoja. Na unajua hawa hawana formula. Niliona wanakutana Serena wanakunywa chai. Kalonzo sijui nani yako hapa. Hawatakubaliana who will be the leader. Hawatakubaliana chama. Hawatakubaliana tutawanyorosha hii 2027 asubuhi na mapema. William Ruto atakuwa real. Namna hiyo.
So now, ladies and gentlemen, from what you've just heard, I think there are several people who have been unleashed to discredit Matiang'i's presidency. But I want you to tell me, do you think this will work? Or can Matiang'i use whatever is going on to his advantage? I know in the social media cycles, this is not the only person who has discredited Matiang'i. There are people who are saying that President William Ruto is using the former Chief Justice Maraga to kind of water down Matiang'i's influence from the Kisii or the Gusii land. The former Chief Justice has come out to say that he has not, or he is not discrediting him. But why I'm doing this video is the fact that whatever these guys are trying to do, I know there are people who are saying that Matiang'i should come out and tell Kenyans where some of the people who were thrown into Yala River during his reign as the Internal Security Cabinet Secretary, he should come and explain to Kenya why all these things happened. And then there is also the issue of Roraka land saga. There are other issues that they are also raising here about corruption and all that.
Alafu pia ile side nyingine sio alternative alliance, they are people's loyal alternative. Gachagua pia, we do not believe Gachagua represents the change we need. Yes. Hata Matiang'i hajatuambia vijana wetu wa Yala River nani waliopeleka huko. Hajatuambia kulikuwa na meat grinder pale Lavington, vijana walikuwa wanasiagwa wanapotea. Hajatuambia ni nini ilitendeka hizo bilioni kwa miaka 10, kwani ni biashara gani wanafanya? Hello? Kwa hivyo msiogope na msipigishe stories mingi.
Yeah. It's true that we should hold our leaders accountable. We should hold them to account to their past deeds. It's true that we need clean leaders as we go into 2027 general elections. Even though we don't have very clean leaders, but we need leaders who can steer this country out of the situation that we are in right now. But I know politicians, there are people who are looking at this and they're salivating. Because one, whatever President William Ruto is doing right now, or his handlers are trying to do right now, can work to their disadvantage. Why am I saying so? I gave an example in the last video that when President William Ruto was being attacked by former President Uhuru Kenyatta's handlers, he used the attacks to his advantage. So in this one as well, Matiang'i can use whatever is going to be thrown at him to his advantage. Because, you know, Kenyans kind of do have sympathy for someone they think is being tormented by the state. And sometimes the feeling is always that there is something that the state is trying to hide. Or maybe the person who is being tormented by the state using corruption charges, using the police, that is the person that appeals to the emotions of Kenyans. So whatever President William Ruto's government is trying to do, Matiang'i's handlers can use it to his advantage. By one, what Matiang'i needs to do is to get out there and declare to Kenyans that he's going to bid for the presidency in 2027. I know there is that fear from his circles, because if he was serious about it, then he would have done it on the day that he arrived at JKI. Or rather still, by now, Kenyans should have known that Matiang'i is going to vie for the president because he has not declared officially. He needs to do that and start going around the country marketing his presidency. And even if he's not going to be involved directly, he needs to set up a team that is going to do that. And then from that, I know the reaction from President Ruto's camp will be to attack him, maybe use trumped up charges against him. And that is where now Matiang'i can use that to his advantage by playing the victim. Because, you know, politics is a game. It depends on how you appeal to the emotions of Kenyans at the day. But the only difference is that Matiang'i is not charismatic. That is now where the problem is, because all this has to come from him, and then he needs to have a team that is going to keep on piling pressure on President William Ruto and his handlers as well. That is now where the problem is. He should come up with a strategy. But now for President William Ruto and his handlers, they also need to look at Matiang'i as someone who can give them a run for their money. The way they handle his candidature matters a lot. Because, you know, Kenyans will look for someone who they can vote for in order to send President William Ruto packing. But if they use the same tactics that were used by the former President Uhuru Kenyatta, then that will play to their disadvantage. So they need to look at a way in which, I know they will look at a way in which they will handle Matiang'i with a lot of care, because, okay, he's not the only presidential candidate, but sometimes you can play your cards in a way that you give advantage to your opponents, and that is what they need to look at. I think that is what they will be looking. But there are so many people who are going to come up. I think Matiang'i is one of them. Maraga, as it is being said, can be used to divide the Kisii votes. But Matiang'i himself needs to also work to consolidate, one, Kisii votes, and two, come up with a very strong team. I know the likes of Rigathi Gachagua, the former deputy president, are trying to work a coalition whereby we'll have Kalonzo Musyoka, Fred Matiang'i, and other opposition leaders rallying against one candidate. But Rigathi Gachagua, as I have told you, has interest in supporting Kalonzo Musyoka because he knows that Matiang'i is being fronted by the former President Uhuru Kenyatta and his handlers, the likes of Jeremiah Kione. And Rigathi Gachagua wants somewhere that is going to have influence, because if Matiang'i runs on a Jubilee candidate, on a Jubilee party and wins, then it means Rigathi Gachagua is not going to have influence over him. He's not going to call shots. He will have to go through the likes of Jeremiah Kione you'll have to go through the former President Uhuru Kenyatta, who they are not seeing eye to eye with. So for him, he might also want to work on a formula that favors his interests. And that formula or that presidential candidate has to be Kalonzo Musyoka or any other person that he thinks might give him a better deal. But I don't think he is kind of looking at supporting Matiang'i. So Matiang'i will have to work very hard. It's not just about going out there and saying that you're going to vie for the president. It takes a lot of teamwork, coming up with a very good team that is going to work for you day and night. And he also needs to work on his charisma, because Matiang'i, as he is right now, is not a politician. He's more of an administrator. So he needs to get out there and get dirty. Getting dirty does not mean that trying to paint your opponents, but doing all the donkey work. You remember how President William Ruto used to campaign on his own, going all the way to Western, going all over the country campaigning. So that also requires a war chest. That is in terms of finance. He needs to have a team that is going to back him up financially. With the finance, I think if the former President Uhuru Kenyatta decides to support him, finance might not be a problem per se. He might be financed, but he needs a team that is going to campaign for me, a team that is going to go all the way to the grassroots to work for him. But President William Ruto's handlers need to treat Matiang'i's candidature with a lot of care, because it might backfire on them if they handle him carelessly, because there is that attempt to use force to intimidate him. There is that attempt to use the police force to intimidate. There's that attempt to unearth some of the skeletons in his closet. So ladies and gentlemen, we are going to keep on monitoring what is going on and keep you updated. But if you are new here, kindly hit the subscribe button and the notification bell down below so that you can be notified whenever we post a new video. Until next time, bye-bye.